Hello all and welcome to Mobile Device Manager Plus training. Myself Naveen, I would be your trainer for the day. Let's start with our training. So this would be the training schedule. Last week we discussed on device onboarding and device provisioning, which dealt more with device enrollment, your conditional exchange access, and a few profiles that can be added. Today we'd be dealing with app management and device security, followed by which in next week's session, we would talk more about modern management of your Windows 10 and your Mac machines. So let's take a quick look at our training agenda. First, we would have an overview of the Mobile Device Manager Plus product, a general introduction of what MDM is, what's the architecture, how we are going to manage the mobile devices, and what ports are going to be used in the case you guys are opting for the on-premise solution. Followed by which we would take a quick look into the complete app lifecycle management. Because when you take a particular mobile device, applications are of key importance. Without apps, mobile devices are not going to be of any use to us. And these apps do hold your corporate data, which has to be protected. And at the same time, these applications have to be updated and installed in your devices. So we take a quick look as to how you can distribute your apps to the devices itself and how you can secure the data in your devices, like from blacklisting the applications, locking down the device, or even automating your OS updates. So all these different types of securing your data can be discussed on today's session. And at last, we would talk also about securing your lost devices because, it's not a big thing of distributing applications or securing your data. It's more of what the MDM can do if that particular device is lost. What are the features that we provide which can help you to prevent, the theft of your data itself. And at the end, we would take a quick look into some scenarios and solutions that were asked during the previous training sessions or something that I have encountered on the support side. So as I've worked on the support for quite some time now, I know the different scenarios that the customers might end up in, and these scenarios and solutions can help you out a lot. When you are faced with that particular scenario itself. So let's get started with the first overview of the Mobile Device Manager Plus product. So these are the supported operating systems. The ones that you see on your screen are the most predominant and the commonly used operating systems out there, right from managing your iOS devices, your Android, your Windows, or even your Chromebooks. And when it comes to your iOS, we can also manage your Mac machines as well as your Windows 10 machines. So both these would fall under the modern management sector, and that is something that we would talk in detail in next week's session. Now, the Mobile Device Manager Plus product is available as a standalone solution. So it's available both as an on-premise as well as a cloud service. Your Mobile Device Manager Plus MSP for MSP providers is now available in the on-premise. It's a standalone version of the MDM, and a cloud service would also be, released soon. And at last, we have the Desktop Central, which is our flagship product. So Desktop Central is a solution that would help end users or our clients to manage any endpoint solution that they like. It can be a Windows machine, it can be a Mac, it can be a Linux or mobile devices, even your server. So everything can be managed from a single console, thus making it a unified endpoint management solution. So that would be our Desktop Central solution, and that would have all of the MDM components that we would be talking about in today's session. So the integrations that we provide, because when an administrator is going to work in a company, they are going to have a help desk tool in front of them, going through all the tickets that have been raised by the employees itself. So we provide direct integrations with ServiceNow, Zendesk, Spiceworks, and even our own Manage Engine Service Desk Plus tool. So these are all powerful integrations that can be done with the MDM solution itself in order to perform any tasks from those particular service tools. And also, we provide integrations with other apps like Zoho Creator or Zoho CRM, mainly for distributing any application through that you have created through the Zoho Creator or maintaining your customer relationship management through Zoho CRM. And apart from all this, we still support third-party API key integration. So that is something that is present on the service console itself. So once I take you through the console, I will show where we can perform that integration. And now for the Mobile Device Manager Plus architecture. So what we have done over here is we have adopted the universal architecture itself that any MDM would use. So there are three main components. One is the MDM service that is provided by us. Two would be the notification services that are provided by the respective vendors. Namely your Apple push notification services for iOS, Firebase Cloud Messaging for Android, or your Windows notification services for Windows. So these are all notification services that are maintained by the respective cloud services itself. And the third component would be the mobile devices that you would like to manage. So the flow would go as follows. So you have your MDM service. So the MDM service would contact the notification service, which would in turn wake up your mobile devices. Your mobile devices would then contact the MDM server directly, thus completing your communication cycle. And in this case, if you're going for an on-premise solution, your MDM server must be exposed to the internet because mobile devices are always on the go. They are not connected to one particular network. They are always connected to different VLANs or even your mobile data. So which means your MDM server would be exposed to the internet itself. And in order to protect the MDM server, we have an additional component called as the Secure Gateway Server. So the working of the Secure Gateway Server is really simple. Any request that comes from your mobile devices would only hit your Secure Gateway Server. And your Secure Gateway Server, after that, would forward the request to your Mobile Device Manager Plus service itself, thereby securing the server from any external threats. So even if someone tries to attack, they would only attack the Secure Gateway Server that is within your DMZ, and they would not be able to reach the MDM server that is well within your firewalls. And at last, we also provide integrations with Active Directory for device enrollment and provisioning facilities. And now for the ports used by Mobile Device Manager Plus product. So in the case you are opting for an on-premise solution, be it the Desktop Central or be it the Mobile Device Manager Plus product, the important port would be port 9383 because your devices would connect to the server through that port. While if you're going for a cloud-based solution, then you don't have to worry about all these communications and ports. Everything would be taken care by us. Even the security side would be taken care by us itself. And the only port that you guys would have to allow would be the port 443, which is the regular HTTPS port that would be allowed in all environments. Now that we have talked about, the architecture or how the MDM is present, let's dive into how does the MDM actually manage your mobile devices. So in the case of Android, your mobile devices, your Android mobile devices would be managed by the MEMDM application itself. But if you go for iOS or Windows or your Chromebooks or your Macs, we use the native client that these vendors have provided within their OS system itself. So instead of installing our application to manage these mobile devices, we make use of the native client itself to manage your mobile devices. So let me take you through the MDM portal itself. So this would be the MDM portal. We have tabs ranging from the Home tab to Support. So Home is just a predefined view of the platform summary, the device type. So it's an interactive dashboard. So if you click on it, you would automatically be navigated to the 8 Android devices that have been enrolled, and which would take you to the inventory tab, wherein you have all the inventory details of the mobile devices that have been enrolled with the MDM system in the past or right now. So you have multiple devices across continents pinging right over here under location data. So we'll talk more about that in the coming sessions. And here under device management is where you would perform a lot of your management activity. And today's session, we'll be focusing more on the device management side, like pushing out applications or pushing out profiles or even automating your OS updates. So all these options are available under your device management tab. And last week, we dealt with enrollment. So I hope users who had joined in last week, you guys had a good time in going through all the enrollment process, and you guys were able to try out the enrollment process in your setup as well. So if you have any questions, again, even today we have an expert panel waiting right beside me to answer all your questions on the chat. So if you have any doubt on today's session, be it app management or even distributing profiles to the devices, any doubts, you can always raise it to the chat team and they can help you out with the answer itself. And then we have the reports tab, so wherein you can collect a report of all the devices that have been enrolled with the MDM system itself. You have the admin tab, wherein you can perform certain administrative tasks like adding additional users in, etc. And then you have the support tab, wherein you can get into our forums, our blogs. You can also get to take a look at all our resources that we provide, and even this training video would be updated here after some time. So this completes the overview of the Mobile Device Manager Plus product. Let's head into our first actual topic for the day, which is to install and manage all of your business applications. So MDM has a particular section called as the app repository. So in the app repository, we have the ability to store all your Play Store or store applications, I would say, and even your enterprise applications. So it's a cluster of all the applications that you would require for your company itself. And what we do is the MDM server would trigger the installation of these applications on the mobile devices. So what happens over here is that all your devices would either reach out to the store and download the necessary applications if required, or if it's an enterprise application, since we have our own app repository, it would directly contact the MDM server and install the required enterprise applications. So let me take you through a scenario. So let's assume that I am an administrator for my company, and right now I am tasked with deploying one application to one of my employees' device. So he is a developer and he would require the Zoho Creator application. So what I would do right now is I would first add the application to the app repository over here. So I have come down to the device management tab and clicked on app repository, and now I have the ability to add the application that needs to be distributed to my device. So what I would do, I would go to add app, I'd go to add Apple Store application, since the application that he owns is, the mobile that he owns is an iOS device. So let me go ahead and search for Zoho Creator over here. So what happens in this case is that the MDM server would directly contact the App Store itself. And as you can see, all the Zoho Creator applications are present. You can also change the location from where you would like to fetch these applications from, because certain applications on the store, the application developer itself would have tweaked the app for your country. So if you'd like to get those tweaks to be added to your devices, you can then choose from which country should we fetch your applications from. So I'm going to click on Zoho Creator. Automatically, I get the version of Zoho Creator as well as the bundle identifier, the App Store ID, and the category directly fetched from the store itself. Then I click on Next. I get the app policies. whether I would like to remove the app upon removal of the MDM profile. That is a complete yes, because I don't want the data of the Zoho Creator application to be stored if the device is unmanaged. And also, I can restrict the backup of the app data into iTunes or iCloud. I don't want my corporate data to be present on iTunes or iCloud. I can also prevent the app from backing itself up on the iTunes. Followed by which, this is one interesting category, I would say, because if the app developer has made some provisions within the applications itself, certain configuration changes that can be made, you can upload an XML file over here, and automatically your app would be designed to work as to what is present in that XML. So your app would be configured to work in a particular way, and that is something would which would be available if the app developer has made it possible. So once that is done, you can click on save, and this particular application would be added to your app repository list over here. Once it's added to the app repository list, you can go ahead into groups and devices. So I'm still under the device management tab. You can go to groups and devices. You can either choose a group, or say, let's take, for example, let me choose a random group over here and deploy your profiles, apps, or documents, or you can go for an individual device, an individual Android or iOS device, choose the respective devices, and then distribute the app. So it's your choice whether you'd like to go for a bulk distribution or a manual distribution to each and every device itself. So if I go ahead and click on distribute app, here I have the platform as Apple, Store applications, and free app. Here I can search for the app that I have just added. So it would be the Zoho Creator application. And I have two methods to install. One is the manual installation from the app catalog, which we would be dealing with right now. And another option is the silent installation. So I'd be talking more about silent installation in the slides to come. And we also have another option called as notify users by email upon distributing an app, just to trigger a notification by email. By default, if you add or send an application to a device, the device itself would generate a notification saying that, hey, your administrator has distributed an application for your device. So once that is done, I will click on select, and automatically your Zoho Creator application would be sent to that group or device. And this is what happens on the device end. So the end user can open the MDM application. He or she can click on the app catalog, and then from the app catalog, they can install the application. So since it's a manual way, they'd have to click on install, and this would trigger them to give in their iTunes account details. So once they provide their iTunes account detail, the Zoho Creator application itself would be installed on the device. So this is something of a regular deployment is what I would say. Every day, this is just an everyday deployment. In our personal devices, we guys would have our iTunes account and our Gmail account present over there. And when an admin distributes the app, using that account, we can install it on the device. But this requires some user intervention and also an account to be present on the device itself. What if you'd like to automate this particular process? So that's where our automate app installation methods would come into play. So there are solutions provided by the respective OEM vendors. So for Apple devices, the automated app installation method would be your Apple Business Manager. And for Android devices, it would be your managed Google Play services. So let's see how we can go ahead and distribute the applications. But before that, you have certain prerequisites that have to be met with obtaining these solutions itself. The first one would be to create an Apple Business Manager or a Google Managed Services account itself. Once that is done, your devices must be supervised in the case of your iOS devices. So I hope people who have joined in from last week's session would know what supervision is. And you guys can also reach out to the chat if you have any doubts on that. And for the new joinees who have joined in recently for our training itself, you guys can always look into our free training website where we would have uploaded the training from last week's session. So you guys can go through that session to know how you can manage or enroll your mobile devices in a supervised state. And as for your Android devices, any Android device running 5.0 or later versions would be supported by the Google Managed Play services. And now for how the silent installation works on your mobile devices. So first, we would integrate the portals with the MDM server. So be it your Apple Business Manager or be it your Google Managed Play services, you'd have to integrate those services with the MDM, followed by which you'd have to approve the applications on that particular portal. And once the applications have been approved, you can then distribute the apps from the Mobile Device Manager Plus platform, followed by which your apps would be installed on the device silently. So let's see how we can perform those actions on your Mobile Device Manager Plus platform itself. So first, we would start off with the Apple Business Manager side. So let me take you to an alternate portal that you would see over here. Just give me one moment. So here you have two MDM portals. I have the Device Management tab over here, App Repository, and Apple App Management, which is where you would integrate your Apple Business Manager service. So before the integration, this is how your Apple App Management service would look like. You'd have to click on Configure Apps for Business, and then you'd have to upload a particular server token from your Apple Business Manager itself in order to integrate the two services. So let's see where you can upload or obtain this particular server token. So take, for example, this is your Apple Business Manager portal. You have the settings option over here. So if you click on the settings, you can then go to Apps and Books. And under Apps and Books, you have the ability to download a server token. And do keep in mind that an Apple Business Manager can hold multiple accounts and multiple locations. So there'd be a server token for each and every location. So you can choose which location you guys are from. Click on download, and that would automatically download the respective server token provided. Once that is done, you click on browse over here, and this should bring up the VPP token. So here you click on the VPP token, and then you can go ahead and upload the necessary token into this portal. So once that is done, you can always choose the option to install your apps without the Apple ID, and then you'd have to mention email addresses for notifying you guys about server or about this particular token expiry, because Apple would always require you to renew this token once every year. So you'd have to make sure that you provide your common support email address itself so that everyone would get a notification, and one of you guys can just go ahead into the ABM portal, renew the token, and upload it over here. So once it's uploaded, you would find a page similar to this with all your token details and also the apps that are approved in that particular portal itself. So let me show you how you can add applications into the Apple Business Manager portal. So again, you come down to the Apps and Books page. You have your Zoho CRM page over here. So here you go into Apps and Books, you click for Zoho CRM, you can select that particular application and you get the Zoho CRM page. Do make sure that the application is device assignable, and then all you'd have to do is to purchase the licenses for your location itself. So if it's a free app, you can just mention the quantity that you would like to add, and then you can click on Get. So once that is done, all you'd have to do is to just sync the applications in the portal itself. So here under App Repository, you have Sync Apps. So you can go ahead, sync your VPP application. So this would force sync all the latest applications that you have added to the portal itself, followed by which, if you have added a particular application, but you don't want to distribute it right now, no worries. When you log in tomorrow, every day we run a manual scan of your VPP applications itself. So any applications that you have added and you would have missed out at that time to sync them over, we would automatically sync them over to the Mobile Device Manager Plus solution itself. So once that is done, it's all about distributing the application. So you go ahead to groups and devices. I would choose the same group that I had choose before. I'd go to actions, distribute apps, and now all I have to do is to go for Apple Store Free, choose the application, and then click on Silent Install. So this would automatically install the application on my devices. There won't be any notifications triggered, no user intervention is required, or your users are not even, asked for an iTunes account. Hence, for your supervised devices, or in the case your corporate devices, it is not required to have a personal iTunes account or a Gmail account in each and every device to install an application. Everything can be taken care by us through your Apple Business Manager deployment itself. And now for some recommendations. So if a particular application is large, mostly about 150 MB, not even 200. If it's more than 150 MB, it's always recommended to connect to Wi-Fi and then download the application, because by default, your iOS or Android devices will not allow the installation of an app silently if it's connected to your mobile data, if the particular app size is more than 150 MB. So now for Manage Google Play Services. So for Manage Google Play Services, you again go to the old tab. You have something called as Android for Work, which would be the Manage Google Play Services location itself. So I click on Sign In, and here you have the Android for Work solution. So what you can do is you can either register your G Suite account. So if your company owns a G Suite account, you can register with the G Suite account over here, or you can go for a without G Suite option. A without G Suite option means it would just be a regular Gmail account that you guys can create for your company. You don't have to pay for it while opting for a G Suite service. Something like this, like Zilker IT Systems at gmail.com. That is all that is required from our end. So let's go ahead and see how you can approve applications under the Manage Google Play Services. So first you'd go to a particular portal called as Android for Work, or if you just click on this option over here under, say, Android for Work, you have the option as register with our G Suite. When you click on this option, we would automatically take you to this particular portal over here. You can then go to the next option, sign in with the respective account that you have, mention the business name, then click on next. If you are from the Europe region, this would be an important detail to fill out. Your data protection officer and the EU representative of your company. And once that is done, you'd have to click on read and agree terms and conditions, and then go confirm. So once you click on complete registration, your account would be something similar to this. So you'd have your account type, the domain account, etc. So once that is done, it's all about approving applications for your solution itself. So again, you'd go to a particular site called as play.com/work. It's nothing but the business Play Store that Google has. So over here, you would just search for the required application. If it's the Zoho CRM application, once again, you can click on the Zoho CRM app, click on Zoho CRM, and click on approve. So once that is done, it would mention that, hey, these are the application, or sorry, these are the permissions that your app is going to request. So would you like to go ahead and approve this app? You can, yes, you can go ahead and go to approve. So once you click on approve, this would automatically give you an approval settings, whether you'd like to have, the app in the approved status, even when the developer is going to request for new permissions, or you can revoke the app approval when the developer is going to add additional permissions to your application itself. So once that is done, you click on done. It's all about syncing the applications over to the portal over here. So you come down to app repository once again, you come down to sync apps, and then you have the ability to sync for Play Store applications. So once you click on sync Play Store app, all the applications that you have added under the Play for Work service would be added over here. So if I'm going to choose this particular Zoho CRM application, I have the ability to silently install this particular app, and I also have the ability to control the permissions that the app can have. Whether it can have access to the phone, well, it's important because it's a CRM application, it's required. Microphone should be always allowed. Call logging, yes. And while for storage, location, and contacts, this particular application does not require those details. So if you click on save and if you distribute this application to a particular device, and that can be done silently as well. So it's the same option. I go to the same group, and a quick update over here. Your groups can hold both Android and iOS devices. So previously, I was distributing your iOS applications to the group. Now I would have the ability to distribute Android applications to the same group itself. That is because we support, your Android as well as your iOS devices to be within one group. So if I click on the CRM application and hit on silent install and select, the CRM application would automatically be installed on the device. So here you have your work account added, the CRM application installing on the device, and the permissions that you have enabled over there would be mentioned over here as well. Your user would not have the ability to make any changes to the permission. And this is where your application would get installed. It's a container, a secured container, an encrypted container is what I would call it, where all your work applications would be installed. So this was something that we dealt with in last week's session. So if any one of you guys have missed it, you can always, ring up the guys on the chat right now to give or help you with the links for last week's session. Let's go ahead into how you can control the app updates for your devices. So to control app updates for your devices is a pretty important task is what I would say, because sometimes your apps, the updates itself would be a patch for some existing security issues, or sometimes it would be the other way around. It can cause some huge outage in your production environment itself because the new update would have a lot of bugs and issues in them. So that's why you'd have to control the app updates on your mobile devices. And for that, there are certain prerequisites that come along with it. First, your apps have to be purchased via Apple Business Manager, and those applications have to be device assignable. While for your Google, just integrating the Google managed services alone is enough. We can automatically go ahead and control the app updates on your mobile devices. There isn't any specific prerequisite like in the case of your iOS devices. So once that is done, all you'd have to do is to just go into the portal over here. You can come down to app repository. And here you would have a banner saying that, hey, one application is ready for updates. So you can click on the app name, and this would directly take you to the page wherein we have the distribution status as to what is the latest version that is installed on your device and what is the version that is currently available in the store itself. So you can click on update and click on install updates automatically, which would silently install the updates on your mobile devices as well. So if you click on update app, all the iOS devices that do have the MDM application on them would be updated to the latest version. So this was how we control our app updates. And in case your users are trying to access the App Store or the Play Store to update the applications, we would prevent them because you have configured the Apple App Management or the Android for Work service. So if you configure these services, by default, your users would not be able to update the application. It's only the versions that you are going to distribute in a more controlled manner. And now for the main part, which is to manage your enterprise applications. First of all, I would like to say that an Apple Business Manager account or a Google managed account is not required to upload your enterprise applications to the service itself. And the second case is we have brought in a new feature wherein you guys can test the applications on a particular set of devices before the deployment itself. So this is a new feature that we have brought in. So let me take you through how you guys can perform the same. So this is the MDM solution. You have the app repository. So let's go ahead and go to add app. So I'm going to add an Android enterprise application. So I click on upload file. So first let me go with this Z delivery application. So I'm going with version 2 over here. I click on choose. Automatically we would start fetching the details. What is the app version, whether it's the productivity or what type of devices is it supported on, all these details, and then you can click on next. And if your application again has the ability to make some small changes based on the configurations given over here, you can mention those details over here as well. So once that is done, you'd click on save, and this particular app would now be added to the list. So here you have your Z delivery application. Now let's take, for example, you guys are now going to have a beta version of this application listed out. So you would like to now distribute that particular application to a few devices. So what I would do over here is I would go to the Z Delivery app, and over here I have the ability to upload the beta version of that application. So if I click on upload, I would automatically go to that page wherein I can upload my beta app. So I click on upload and I click on this version 2.1.1. So I click on choose, and automatically your app details would be fetched by the MDM service itself. So there is already an older version available, which is 2.0, and now this would be added as a beta version, which you can test on certain devices. Well, I would like that, and I would go ahead and update. But before that, if I'd like to make certain changes, so this is only for your beta application. So for the remember, for your primary app, we selected the supported devices as smartphone and tablet. If you would like, for your beta application, you can select just the smartphone alone and click on save. That would make sure that the beta application would be supported only in your smartphones and they cannot be distributed to your tablets. So you can click on save over here, and once that is done, all you'd have to do is to just update the application. So now is another interesting part. Here we have the ability to look into the stable version as well as the beta version. So here for the stable version, if I go to distribution and status, since I have just added this application right now, there is no specific status whatsoever over here. And here I have the ability to take a look into the distribution details for my 2.1 version as well. So let's see the different scenarios that can be performed. If so, do follow me. Do follow me on this, because it would be a bit tricky, as this is the first time you guys are going to look into this particular feature itself. So let's take, for example, I go down to groups and devices. I go to a particular device. Let's take Ellen Stark, and I go to action. I distribute apps. I go for enterprise apps, free apps, and I have the Z Delivery application over here. So if I click on the Z Delivery application, it means only the latest version of that app would be distributed. You can see the 2.0 version, so only this version of the application would be distributed to my device. But if I go to the app repository and say I would like to, distribute the beta version, I can just click on the symbol over here, and this would automatically take me to the beta page. So once I come down to the beta page, I can go to distribution and detailed status. I can click on distribute app over here. I can either choose an entire group, a test group if required, or I can choose a particular application. So if I choose a particular device, and then I can click on it and distribute the application. So this makes sure that the beta version of the application is distributed only to a particular group or to a particular device. Now, next comes scenario number 3, wherein if you have already distributed your stable application to a group, we would not allow you guys to add the beta application. So by mistake, you're going to distribute apps, you're going to choose multiple, groups, but at some point, you guys miss out and you choose a production group by mistake. So at that time, we would throw an error saying that, hey, wait a minute, you have distributed your stable version of the application to the group. And what we recommend at that time is that you either create a new group just for your test devices and then distribute your beta application. So once you have tested out the beta application on your device extensively, then you can go ahead and what you can do in this case, you can upload a new version of the beta app if required, or if the application is stable, then you can mark it as stable. And this would give you an option to either add it to the app catalog so that the users can install the application or the update when they like, or you can automatically update the application itself. So if I click on update app, this would make sure that the 2.1 version, the latest version and the stable version of the application would be distributed to my devices itself. So that's how you guys can now test your beta applications and then approve your beta application and then move them to the production environment itself. So I hope this comes in handy to a lot of users out here today, and you guys can go ahead and test this feature out. So next, for some prerequisites, for iOS, the device must be supervised, and for Android, your devices must either be Samsung devices or be provisioned as device owner. So for silently installing these applications or updates, those are the prerequisites that you would require. And now, how can you prevent users from installing unapproved applications? This is the first question that I get all the time in the support scenario, because if it's going to be an enterprise app, why should my users have the access to install applications that are not approved for the system? So what I can do is I can gladly go ahead into the MDM portal itself, click on device management, click on profiles, hit on create profiles. Apple or Android, this option is available in both. I'd come down to restrictions, applications over here, and users can install unapproved applications. So if I restrict this particular option, then only the MDM distributed apps can be installed on your devices. So the same option is available for both your Android as well as your iOS devices. The next case is, how can you prevent users from accessing unapproved websites on a device? This again can be controlled. So let's take the previous scenario itself. You're going to restrict your users from installing unapproved apps, which means only the default browsers would be present on the device. And you would also like them to lock down these browsers in such a scenario wherein they cannot access any unapproved site. So in this particular scenario, you go back to the MDM portal, you create a particular Android, profile or iOS profile, both are the same. You come down to a particular option called as web content filter. So here you can either whitelist certain URLs or blacklist certain URLs. So based on whether it's whitelisted or blacklisted, we would either block all of the other websites or allow only certain websites to be present or viewed or accessed from your mobile devices itself. So this is all that has to be performed on your profile. Automatically, no access, or I would say you can completely restrict the access of any unapproved websites on your mobile devices. And the last scenario that we are going to see over here before we dive into the other aspects are whitelisting specific applications on a device. This again is a major requirement on our side wherein users would like to whitelist only specific applications for their mobile devices. They don't want to have, say a bunch of 15, 20 applications to be present on the device. They would like to lock down an entire device to run only few applications. So that's where the kiosk mode would come into play. We have our single app kiosk where only one application would be running on an entire device, or we have the multi-app kiosk wherein you have multiple applications present on the device itself, but in a locked scenario. So let's see how you can create a kiosk profile. So here it's the same. You go down to profiles, you click on create profile, and you create a new Android profile. I've already created a kiosk profile for you guys. So let me go ahead into that particular profile. So this is again a new learning curve. If you have any profiles already created, you can go ahead and modify that particular profile. So if you click on modify profile, the previous profile details would be mentioned. You can either choose whether it's going to be a single app or a multi-app kiosk. If you're going for multi-apps, I would also like to add the new application that I have just added right now. So I've added the Z Delivery app itself, and I can show a lot of other changes, like whether I would like the users to expand their status bar, which I do not want them to, whether they are willing or whether you are allowing them to use the volume button, which I can restrict, and I can set the volume controls as well on the device, whether they are allowed to use the power button, the back button, basically locking down the entire device itself into a particular box is what I would say. And then you have your custom settings application. So in the case, your entire device is going to be boxed, then your users would not have access to certain settings app, mainly, changing Wi-Fi or turning on the flashlight. So in that scenario, we can create a small custom settings application on your device itself, and that would have access to the Wi-Fi and the flashlight options. And at last, you have the advanced setting wherein you can enable a default application to come up on the device when a particular device is inactive or when a particular device is turned on for the first time. So the first application that comes up on your screen would be the default application that you are going to set. And also over here, you saw that you guys, the MDM logo is present on the kiosk screen. If you'd like, you can upload your own company logo over here, and that wallpaper would be changed. So take, for example, I'm going to save this profile. I'm going to publish it. Now a new version of that profile itself would be created, something around 4 or 5, if I'm not wrong. So if it's version 4. So I would have to now make sure that all my devices that are associated with that profile gets to the latest version 4. So this particular device is at executed version 3, and now I'd have to go ahead and go to the latest version because that has the Z Delivery application on it. So I click on upgrade profile, click on upgrade, and now the new version of the profile would be distributed to your device. So this would lock the entire device down in kiosk mode. So let's go for the next option, wherein if you would like to remote troubleshoot your remote users itself. So this is something that is faced in a lot of companies these days because mobile devices are always on the go and you guys would like to remote in, see what's happening on the device itself. And mainly the reasons you would like to remote in is because there are some issues with the corporate applications. If the devices are outside on the field and you don't know what to do or how you'd like to configure the application itself or any settings on the device. And if you pass certain messages on to the field agents, but they are not technically adept and they are not able to perform certain tasks, that's when you'd like to remote into the device itself. So let's see how you can remote into a particular mobile device. So here I go to remote control option. So I have a particular user, Aaron Stark over here, who I would like to remote into their particular device. I would click on start, and what we do over here is we would ask the user for a notification. So if the end user clicks on Start Now, automatically the screen would be displayed on your service over here. So this would start the remote session. And if the user is connected to a slow internet, or if they are connected to a 3G service that's not fast enough, then it would take some time, right now, to bring up the screen. But once the screen is up, you can use the buttons over here to navigate through the system itself. So remember, I had just distributed the latest version of the profile with the Z Delivery application added. So the Z Delivery app has been added, the Maps application, and even the Settings app has been configured over here. So all the details are over here. I can use the chat to perform various other actions as well, like exit hyphen kiosk, which would remove the kiosk mode from the device itself. So rather than you guys going into the device itself or removing the profile from the device, we can remove the kiosk mode from the device. And you can then control the screen as to what has to be displayed or what can be performed on your devices. So once you have made all the changes and you know that all these details have been configured now, you can now go ahead and click on slash enter hyphen kiosk. So this would again bring back the kiosk mode on your devices. So the kiosk screen would resume on your devices successfully and your devices would be locked under kiosk mode. So it has been locked on my end, but since the device is connected to a 3G service, I think the update has gone through. It's still stuck in 20. Yeah, it would be going on right now. I should get a better internet connection next time. I'm sorry, guys, to have you guys keep you guys waiting on this. So the device is locked in kiosk now. Next time, I would connect the device to a better Wi-Fi solution so that you guys don't get stuck with this particular scenario. But this again is a learning curve. In certain cases, devices would be connected to some slow services. You guys just have to make sure that it's connected to a good service so that you can have a reliable connection established. So now how you can restrict certain devices from leaving a particular area, that can be done with a new feature as well called as geofencing. So first you can set a fence policy, an area around which wherein the fence is going to be set. So that would be under fence repository. So take for example geofence Canada. So I'm going to take Canada as an example over here, and yeah, right. So some random user has created right in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So let me go ahead into the Pleasanton office itself. Sometimes these testing guys would get on my nerves. So we have now in the Pleasanton office. So take for example, I would like to restrict my say devices to be only within this particular area. First, I can create a fence repository around it. Then I can create a policy followed by it. So this policy can have certain options like if the mobile device moves outside of that particular location, immediately a notification is triggered on the device. Immediately, we would also enable the loss mode on the device, which I would be talking about in the slides to come. And after a day, if that particular device is not going to be returned, let's just wipe the entire device itself. So this is only a additional option. If you'd like, you can go for it, or if you'd like, you can remove it as well. We would also be bringing in a lot of new changes to the fence policy itself. So just like how we have added the multi-app version support or the test and approve support that we have brought in, we would also be bringing in a new change to your fence policy itself, wherein if a particular device enters into a particular fencing area, the profiles and the applications associated to that device would be added to it. So that is something that we are working on right now and would be released in the future builds. So the next part would be to automate the OS updates on the devices. So let's take a quick look as to what are the disadvantages of running an outdated OS version. By now, most of you guys would know what are these points are, but let me just go through them. First off, you'd be missing out on various security patches. That's a big yes. Second would be your older OS versions get slower with time. I think iOS users can get this particular feeling itself. So now once the iOS 13.0 version is going to be released in a few weeks time, your 12.0 would start to feel a bit slower on your devices. And I don't even want to talk about the people who are using 9 or 10 because you guys would be dragging your feet right now and the devices itself would take a long time to load your applications. So that's one disadvantage. And another disadvantage that comes with, updating all these devices at the same time is first, if iOS just plans to release an OS update on the middle of the day on a Wednesday, it would lead to a loss of productivity because all your devices would be, downloading the iOS update on the same time. Your enterprise app might be incompatible because be it an Android update, be it an iOS update, they always add in new features that can break the existing features that are working as expected for our use cases. So to test your enterprise app in capability, you can just automate the OS updates in a few groups, and then you can test the application, followed by which you can then control the your OS updates for your entire production devices itself. And the last thing is bandwidth choking because no one is going to release, your security updates or your, say, 13.0 updates or the Android 10 updates in 50 MB or 60 MB. It's going to be at least a GB or somewhere close to around there. So your bandwidth would get choked if you have around 500, mobile devices connected to one single network downloading 500 GB worth of data. So in order to overcome that, we have the automate schedule and automate OS update policy. So let me quickly take you through the MDM portal, click on automate OS updates over here, create a policy, hit on Android because Android is the more inconsistent is what I would call it in order to release your OS updates because right now Android 10 is available for Pixel, but I don't see anything on my OnePlus device. I think it would take at least a month or two for me to get the Android 10 version on my device. But to make sure that once I get, the particular update, it should happen only on, say, all the weeks, but it should happen only on a Saturday or a Sunday between this particular time. So I can do that, and I can also immediately deploy the OS on my devices once it's available, or delay it a further 3 or 4 more days. So let me go ahead with immediate right now. Let me choose the deployment window as well, and I can also notify the users. In my case, it would be myself, and I can also skip the deployment on my particular device if I'm working on something or I'm just browsing through Facebook or Instagram at that time, and that is the most important thing for me to do. So I can go to just notify my users regarding it, and I can save this particular policy. So once this policy is saved, there's already a name with it. So let me go ahead and go for Android Poly. So just to make the change over here, click on Save. Now Android Poly is ready to be distributed to any of the groups. So let me choose just one particular, policy over here. Click on Distribute Policy. I can either distribute it for an entire group or to respective devices just to run some particular tests. So that would be your particular option to automate the OS updates on your devices. So it's a one-time setup. You have options for delayed and windowed deployment. Your users would get notified of the updates, and your users also have the ability to skip the updates as well. So all the advantages were covered in that particular policy. And the last topic would be securing the devices once they are lost or stolen. So once you initiate a lost mode command on the device, your entire device would be locked, and this is the screen that you would see on your devices itself. So let me go ahead into inventory right now. Click on Aaron Stark once again. Since he has lost his device, I'm going to enable the lost mode. So contact number would be 7878778, random number. You can also make changes to the message if you'd like. So let me go to with this message. I can click on next. I can enter a new passcode if required, or I can just enable the lost mode itself. So once that is done, the lost mode would now be enabled on the mobile device. And if I'm not wrong, the remote session is also still active, but since it's connected to a slow network, I don't think this page has still, refreshed. So let me go ahead and let me show you what can be done with the device itself. On the device right now, it's completely locked, but I don't see the same details replenished over here. Let me just check and see. Great. It's now come up with the message, the random number that I have just typed in. And now all the end user or the person who has taken the device can do is to just call me and say, hey, I have your device. I can't do anything, which is just take it back, man. Or if they're not going to call you, you can still track the device on this particular page over here. Under location data, we have the ability to track the device location. So you can also, perform a lot of other options like trigger a remote alarm. And if you know that, you're not going to get the device back, or it's impossible for you to get the device back, you can also initiate a complete wipe or a corporate wipe on the device to wipe all of the existing data on the device itself. So that is something that you can go forward with. And you can also modify the lost mode to remove the lost mode from that device. So if you know that the device has been obtained, you can click on stop loss mode and you can mention the details as it is. And if you click on that, automatically the device will move outside of the loss mode itself, as you can see over here. And just to give you guys a quick update as to remote tracking, one feature that I always like is the location history. So if a particular mobile device does have a location history wherein the device is moving from one location to the other, my damn, this user has traveled a lot. So yeah, as you guys can see, when the user moves from one location to the other, from one building to another, we would mention all the details over here, and you can download your last location history details as well. Whether you'd like to have the complete location details or just the coordinates, all these options are provided. Hot dog snack, nice. I wish I was there. So let's move ahead into our scenarios and solution for now. First scenario is how can we prevent our users from uninstalling corporate apps from a device. That can be performed. You can go to device management, profiles. You can create a profile for Apple or Android. Let me go ahead for Apple right now. Restrictions, applications, deleting apps. The same option would be available in your Android as well under settings and applications, wherein you can prevent your users from removing or deleting any applications that are installed through the corporate portal itself. Scenario two is a user has reset the device and left the organization. Upon reactivating, we are faced with a particular scenario wherein we'd have to provide the user's credential. In the case of iOS, if the devices are supervised, then you don't have to worry about that because by default, even if the user is going to add a personal account on the device, we would not take that up if the device is reset. But in the case of Android, it might be a bit of a trouble because Google is pretty strict on that. So what you can do is you can configure something called as the EFRP. So here, you would provide your corporate email address and your corporate account ID of that particular email address and associate it to the device. So even if the particular device does request for the user's credential, you can provide your own corporate Gmail account and unlock the device. And the last option would be how can we prevent users from turning off the locations on their Android devices. That can be done again under restrictions. You go down to location settings. You keep it as always on. Your end users can never turn off the location at any point of time. The general, use case for this would be if you guys have a logistic company in place, you'd always want to track the location services of those particular mobile devices or the trucks where these mobile devices are present, you can always turn on the location services. Your drivers would not be able to turn them off. And using our location history tracking, which I had shown in the previous tab over here under inventory, you guys can keep track of those trucks itself. So this would bring us to the end of this week's training session. Do rate us on a scale from 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. And if you have some time, you can also spread some love on the social media sites, you know, just to give us a bit of a boost in confidence, I would say, to do more training sessions like this. And our next training schedule is scheduled for September 19th, same time, which is next Thursday. We would be discussing on modern management of your Windows 10 laptops or machines and your Mac machines as well. So I hope all of you guys can make some time and join in on next week's training session. Thank you all for your time. Do take care.